Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are looking at the Prizepicks NFL Week 4 Sunday picks. Let's go ahead and get into it. I posted my final look earlier today. You can check that out if you haven't yet. Should be a pretty good week. There's a lot of concrete plays, in my opinion. At least for cash games, GPPs, you can kind of mix it up. But I feel pretty good about this week. Let's make it happen. As always, if you enjoy the videos, appreciate it with the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. On Thursday Night Football, I posted them on Twitter. I didn't have a chance to make a video, but we've had our first sweep, and I usually give you guys 4 or 5 picks of the NFL season. Higgins, which got auto-corrected, but Higgins 65.5 over. He had over 100. Mostert hit his over. Mixon had 4 catches. McPherson had some long field goals, so it was great. Let's keep it going today, see if we can get another sweep for tomorrow. There are some pass catchers that I'm looking at, and there's some running backs and reception props that look pretty good. The first one that I like is we're going to London. We're going to be looking at Chris Olave's props. It's at 57.5 receiving. I like this over. He gets a new quarterback this week for him. Andy Dalton is taking over because Winston is ruled out with his various injuries. But, Dalton still is a decent quarterback, average, maybe a little below average, but compared to like Winston, it's not a huge difference between those two. And Dalton will still like to throw the ball a bit. They're going up against Minnesota, whose defense has been porous this year, and they've been giving up some big plays to receivers at times. So I think Olave, just with not having Michael Thomas, potentially not having Jarvis Landry as well, who's questionable, it could just be him and like Traquan Smith and Callaway leading the wide receiving corps there. But I like Olave the best at 57.5. That receiving yard over looks really good to me. To Dallas, and we're taking CeeDee Lamb's over receiving props. It's at 62.5. This one is also, I think, pretty low for the role that Lamb is in right now, and the matchup is just so good against Washington. If we look at the games that Washington has played, they just given up some big plays and some big games to receivers. Last week against Philadelphia, we all know Devontae Smith went nuts. He went 8 for 169. A.J. Brown had a pretty good day as well, 5 for 85 and a score. Week before that, they gave up 36 points to the Lions, and St. Brown went 9, 116, and 2 touchdowns. They also got touchdowns from Josh Reynolds that week, and Swift had a receiving touchdown there. And then week number 1 against Jacksonville, Chris Kirk went over 100 yards. Jones played pretty well too. Both Jones, Zay Jones more. But number 1 receivers have had field days against the Commanders so far this year, and CeeDee Lamb, he is going to be the main guy once again this week. With Gallup should return, but he's going to be a bit limited, I'd say. I don't think they'll push him out there for probably more than 50% of snaps if we're lucky. So Lamb, expect him to have another good game, possibly break 100 receiving yards. Another one that I like is going to Cleveland, taking Amari Cooper over receiving yards. It's at 60.5. It's another very good matchup against the Falcons for him. He's started to look really good recently. In last 2 games, going 101 receiving yards. Gets a matchup against the Falcons, who have also, their defense is not their strength. They're 1-2 on the season. They've had a couple of close games. Last week, Geno Smith had a good game against them. He threw for over 300 yards, 325, and you saw Lockett and Metcalf do some work in the passing game. Week before that against the Rams, we saw Cooper Kupp go for 11, 108, and 2 touchdowns. And then a week 1 against the Saints, we had Landry go for north of 100 yards, and Michael Thomas have 2 touchdowns late in that game. Receivers have done work against the Falcons. They have young secondary. So I think Cooper will be looking at another good game, and 60.5 looks pretty low, in my opinion. Those are 3 ones I feel very good about. If we look at passing touchdowns here, I think Jared Goff looks decent. Now he lost another weapon in Chark, so he's going to be looking to Josh Reynolds and Hawkinson, and maybe getting to Williams out of the backfield. But speaking of Jamal Williams, just with the fact that they're not having Chark anymore, the fact that they're not having already days yesterday, the day before, they ruled out Swift and they ruled out St. Brown. That makes Jamal Williams going to have to do some work in the passing game. His reception prop is at 2. I like the over here. I like his over receiving yards or whatever, but just 2 receptions seems like it's a very good candidate to get a push, if not get a clear hit. So if we look at the snap counts for the Lions so far this year at the running back position, Swift, he's played about 50% of the snaps at running back, 52.4, and Jamal Williams is there at 38. The only other guy that's going to get some work, in my opinion, is going to be Reynolds, the backup to the third down running or the third string running back. And so, like, if we just look at in week 1, narrow it down a bit, Jamal Williams, he only played 33% of snaps. He got some more last week, but the fact that he was playing under 40% of snaps, average for the first 3 weeks, and now he's going to jump into probably playing north of like double that, maybe 60, 65, 70%, I'd say at least, if not more. 2 receptions is super low for a guy that will be able to catch passes and going back to his previous days with the Packers. So that's another prop that I feel very good about. If we look at some rushing props, there are a few. Let's look at receiving targets, see if there's anything that sticks out here as well, like Traquan Smith. Don't mind that one at 4. It's not that deep of a board. We'll pass on that one. Let's look at rushing yards. There's like Khalil Herbert's a guy I'm looking at a lot. Najee Harris looks pretty good this week. Eckler has had a tough week running the ball, and we know the Chargers, they like to just put in a couple of like backups. We'll get some snaps for there. So it's a little bit, I'd rather like take his receiving or take Eckler's like total combined rushing and receiving. I think he'll have a good game. We could see some ugly rain weather in some of these Northeast games. We've seen the total come way down in like the Bills game and come down in the Eagles game as well. So that one looks a little bit shaky, taking any like props from that game, and just in my opinion. We saw Pollard have a big game last week, and he kind of got similar work to Elliott, 40.5 rushing yards. That one looks pretty good in my opinion. Dobbins will make his return, but he'll probably be limited, and the matchup isn't very good. The Bills' defense is still very tough. Yeah, rushing, there's nothing that I feel like extremely good about. I like the receivers more this week. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are the 4 props I like. If I had to put in a 5th one, I might go over to the fantasy score prop and put in like Dobbs' over fantasy. He's at 4 receptions, possibly 40.5 receiving yards. I like the over, just not having Watkins, and the fact that he played a lot of snaps makes me feel pretty good about him. But possibly the over fantasy at 9 could be one if you wanted to make it a 5-man, but I'm pretty okay with having these 4. Chris Olave over 57.5 receiving yards, CeeDee Lamb over 62.5 receiving yards, Amari Cooper over 60.5 receiving yards, and Jamal Williams over 2 receptions. Let me know what you guys have, any other ideas or any other props that you liked for tomorrow. Best of luck, a week number 4. We're almost a quarter of the way through the season, or through the regular season. Got the playoffs still, obviously, but thanks for watching. Appreciate it, and I'll see you all next time.